because they think that, in order to have respect, you have to be big and they have to be little.
No.
That's not how classrooms run anymore. And that doesn't mean that you give your respect away or you give your power away. That just means that you immerse in the times.
Mhm.
I still have the tradition of respect me. I do make them. I'm young and I still make. I'm yes ma'am, no ma'am in there. Like I still give those values in there, and the moral compass is still very alive in my classroom. But I know where we're at. The
Yeah.
the times have already transitioned before this pandemic. It just forced us to launch in there now. And so I welcome the newness of their minds and like just letting them speak their heart and let them now assume their role and
Yeah.
how we are. These kids are the future, but the future is now too.
That's what I'm
So
saying. That's
yeah.
exactly what I mean. I'm like, it's definitely now and present, and we need them to be who they are and actually be secure in themselves.
And
So I'm glad that they have a teacher like you that nurtures their imagination and allows them to, be themselves. That's why you won Teacher of the Year. Oh no!
Yup.
They don't get it. It's okay. We get
And I was like, yes, Lord, come on with the cancellations.
Ooh, we going in it. Now just kidding.
it.
I don't know if you know this, but I'm black. Am I good?
He's with the best of them, and he's one of my favorite men up the Alpha side.
that entrance sounds like much more than who I actually am.
Our guest of honor uses words to paint vivid pictures and inflections to implement change. She's the site runner of ohgivemeadrake.com, a writer, creative, podcast hostess of Spotlight on Change podcast, and educator. She's a fourth grade teacher serving her sixth year of education, and in 2015, she was named Teacher of the Year. She received her Bachelors of Science degree in biology from UT Arlington, and she's actively changing the world one day at a time. Today, my guest of honor is Drake Calloway. How are you doing?
Hello. I am good, lady. I am good, good, good. I'm such a pleasure to be here. Excited.
Happy to have you. I was like, I got to get Drake on here. We got to get her on here.
Okay. And I'm gonna keep saying Happy New Year. I know it's mid-January. Happy New Year
No, Happy
to
New Year.
us.
For real.
Yes. Like I'm gonna say it all month long. Like
All
Happy
year
New Year
long.
to you. All okay. All the blessings to you. All I think about is love and light. All I'm thinking about for real. But yeah, thank you for having me on.
No problem at all. Well, speaking of Happy New Year, tell me how it has been quarantining for
Oh my
you.
gosh. Oh my gosh. Well, my life changed. I think it was September. Because we as teachers, we had been teaching from home since March. And
Mhm.
so it was real like I was working from home. I was doing the whole quarantine thing. I rarely went anywhere. All that was like that became a norm. And then in September, they said, okay, you guys are going to come back and then you're going to teach from the classroom. I taught for like a month or so by myself. Kids weren't there. That was a different thing, trying to teach to a computer in an empty classroom. And then the kids are back. So quarantining is a different kind of term for me right now because I still have to mind my locations, mind where I go, mind how I do things. I don't really get out like I used to. Just because of my environment that I'm now being pushed. It's different. And 2020 was actually the gift. And I know I'm gonna say the curse, but it really was a gift too because it caused a lot of like self-reflection.
Yeah.
I had to kind of like dive into like, okay, where am I at now? How have I like drifted off from my goals or how am I aligning with my goals? How am I being as an educator? Could I stride harder in that? So it was a lot. Some of it was like that, like ripping band-aids off and healing period and all that. But a lot of it really was just growth
Yeah.
exponentially, I feel like, because all you had was time to reflect. I mean, you didn't have a lot of distractions. You didn't have a lot of like disturbances, is what I was going to say.
Mhm.
When you go into all these different places, hang out and all that kind of stuff, we call it distraction, but it's kind of like disturbing our peace sometimes.
Oh
So
yeah.
for me,
Absolutely.
but for me, I think it was a graceful thing for like, I was given time to realign. So
Yeah.
that's kind of how my quarantine life was then and now, because it still progresses now.
It's all about perspective for sure because at the end of the day, it's like you can either look at the cup half full or
Yep.
half empty. And we already knew what we were in. So it's like, why
Yep.
look at it that way? Because we already struggling. So why are we gonna look at it
Yep.
in a negative way? So
Man.
I'm glad your perspective is a positive one.
I mean, and I went in and out. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna act like I didn't. I went in and out. I went, and then I was like, nope, 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 nope. You know, so it was a lot. It was also a testament to that, like learning how to get back up and like mentally. You know, a lot of
Yeah.
us focus right now is mental health. Like a lot of
Yeah.
people are like, you know, Taraji's doing her thing, and I'm so glad for the Black community, Black women community, especially talking to us about us. You know, but a lot of that was difficult for all of us, but definitely for me, I had to learn how to like come back up. So yeah,
Yeah.
but
Do you,
thank you because I am trying to be positive.
oh, no problem. And I know that's natural to go up and down, so it's okay. But I wanted to ask you, like, how are you um nurturing your students now? Like, because I know they're probably struggling extremely with this. Like, so
Oh yeah,
what are some things that you can probably tell people to help them out when it comes to that?
yeah. That and I'm actually gonna post one on my podcast about like the teacher to teacher human side
Go ahead and
because
plug
in
it. Go ahead and plug your
education,
podcast. Go ahead and plug it real quick.
yes, Spotlight on Change podcast, y'all. This is how Spotlight on Change podcast. Like I changed it like that, but no. I did do one because I think that there's a lot of like political conversations about education right now. You know,
Yep.
there's not a lot of human perspective. And even if you do talk about the kids, you're talking about how they could possibly get sick or how they're not getting sick. You're not talking about them, the human, or the test. I mean,
Yep.
it's like these kids, along with us, had to reinvent life, like as we knew it overnight.
Yep.
Like, literally had to go and just assume their role. They had to grow up in 2020 in a way that they never knew was coming. I mean, none of us, we all had to grow up in a lot of ways, but
Oh
these
yeah.
kids had to grow up like overnight. And so the way that I guess my approach, and it changes every day, but my approach really is just the human side. You know, I do take those extra minutes to just talk to them, to let them
Yeah.
talk. You know, in the ways that we couldn't find those minutes in the lesson cycle before, I find them intentionally now
Yeah.
because these kids, some of them are at home all day. They don't even have siblings to go and chit chat with. You know, their parents are either occupied at work, so they're really not getting attention. If they get the glory to work from home and still be present, you
Yeah.
know, so it's the human side is what's taken over my classroom. I have to let them be kids. You know, I have
Yeah.
to let them still learn, and surprisingly, the data has, for me at least, has been pretty favorable, even all things considered. But my goal is to say I want to tap into you because
Hmm.
you've had to overcome something that none of us thought as a planet, we as mankind, how that we were gonna have to, you know, prevail over, and still working through that. And you got 10
Exactly.
year olds that adapted to Zoom. I remember learning from them, like telling me, okay, so how did you keep your screen making me think that you're there? Like, like I had to learn everything overnight, but they helped me. So I want to follow this generation. I want to follow this group to see how they are successful because I know, I mean, if they can do
Oh
this,
yeah.
can you imagine like what
Oh
they're going to
yeah.
be able to do?
Yeah.
So,
They definitely look. They brought a new meaning to the children are our future. Like in real
oh
life,
my gosh.
they're our future and our present right now. So that's why I think it's important for us to invest in them because it's like you need to share what you know and let them help you understand how things are now. Which so I'm glad that you
Hmm.
said that a new meaning to the children are our
You know,
future.
because they think that, you know, in order to have respect, you have to be big and they have to be little. You
No.
know, that's not how classrooms run anymore. And that doesn't mean that you give your respect away or you give your power away. That just means that you immerse in the times.
Hmm.
I still have the tradition of respect me. I do make them. I'm young and I still make, I'm yes ma'am, no ma'am in there. Like, you know, I still give those values in there and the moral compass is still very alive in my classroom. But I know where we're at.
Yeah.
The times have already transitioned before this pandemic. It just forced us to launch in there now. And so I welcome the newness of their minds and like just letting them speak their heart and let them now assume their role and
Yeah.
how we are. These kids are the future, but the future is now too.
That's what I'm
So
saying. That's
yeah.
exactly what I mean. I'm like, it's definitely now and present, and we need them to be who they are and actually be secure in themselves. So I'm glad that they have a teacher like you that nurtures their imagination and allows them to be themselves. That's why you won Teacher of the Year.
Thank you. And those kids, everybody's like, "Oh my gosh, girl, you deal with those kids every day." But I'm like, they are the reason why I'm sane. Like, I know
Yes.
that that's not what people think. They think like, "Oh, you're." I'm like, no, they keep me in line.
Yeah,
Like,
they do.
I'm grounded because of them. So yeah, it's a beautiful thing. Even in the craziness of education right now, it's still a beautiful thing to be able to be in front of them every day. It's an honor.
Yeah, I feel the same way. And I wanted to ask you, like, if you had to define your teaching style, like, what would you say? Like, is the main key, like, or if you could give
Mhm.
one word of your teaching style, what would that word be?
Um, I would say I was gonna say teach from the heart, but that's not one word, but it's relationship. It's relationship. Relationship all day. Because I've had kids who have been behind in every other grade level.
Hmm.
And not that I'm something special. I can give many teacher of the year awards in the school that I'm in. I mean 10 times over because of the quality of education that I'm seeing in the school that I'm in. But what I know is that education, when you get into someone and you get in that connection mode in their heart, they're able to see something in themselves that maybe they weren't able to connect with before.
Yep.
And that potential becomes realized. And
Yeah.
then their performance now elevates. So it's the relationship. That's how it was for me. When
Yeah.
I had those good teachers, I was like, they were like me, they were inside me, they were with me forever. I mean, even
Yeah.
now. And so that is relationship. It's a
Absolutely.
relationship.
Is that why you
Yeah.
chose to be a teacher?
Teaching chose me, I think. I ran from it. People don't like to talk about that.
It's
They don't
real.
like to talk about it, but it's real. I went to UTA and I planned on becoming a doctor. I graduated with biology. In college, people don't like to also talk about this, but your heart may not be in the same place as where your actions are. I thought that I
Absolutely.
was, I was like, I knew medical. I said pharmacy. I did nursing. I said, no, I want to do the hard thing, even though it's a challenge. I'm no quitter. I'm going to do that. And I finished with biology, but my heart wasn't in it. Like I saw the pre med kids, they were so motivated to take the medical exam. And I was like, I'm not there. And so while I was in school, I was working at the YMCA. Shout out to the YMCA.
Yes, ma'am.
Big shout out. Like for real, because I was able to work with kids and work didn't feel like work. Like it felt like, and I know it was the YMCA, so you think, oh, that's because you were just with no, but it's like when I got to see kids in the raw, I got
Hmm.
to build that kind of like connection piece and then make it natural. And so after I left school, I said, okay, let me substitute. It was just kind of like until I figured it out. I was gonna do some tests and GREs just to kind of go back to grad school and just find my way. But along the way, it just when things start lining up, like, and it was just like I found people that knew people. I ended up getting jobs where I got to find, okay, this is not the grade level I want. This is the grade level I love. And so I was given the time to actually know that, okay, this is something that I could really see it, because I can't do anything without my heart being in it anyway. That's why I
Absolutely.
struggle with the medical field, because
Yeah.
I'm like, if I'm gonna be in there and this is changing lives too, but literally life or death, I have to be committed. I have to have the education down. And I was gonna really do it, but my heart wasn't there. But whenever I transitioned to, it was an alternative certification program, and I did that, and I said, okay, I can do it. And I felt it, but as soon as I walked through the door, like on my first day, I knew. It
Hmm.
was like I had to surrender. It was like, this is what I was supposed to do. I don't know if this is all I'm supposed to do, but I know that this is definitely a part of my path. This
Hmm.
is home. And
Yeah.
so it is a calling. But like I said, I ran though. I was like, I don't want to do it. I was like, I want to, not from the kids, but I was like, I just had this idea of what my life was supposed to look like.
Whew.
And you know what I mean? I didn't know that
Yeah.
it involved these little humans that changed my life. I'll never be the same. Ever since I joined this field, I'll never be the same.
Exactly. Their kids are the ones who are the most honest, kids and
Oh my
old
gosh.
people. So I think it's amazing. They really do teach you a lot about yourself. And I can relate to you on that because
Hmm.
the kids have definitely, like, they chose me. I didn't choose them, they chose me.
Right.
And I think it's amazing how they have that power and they don't even know they have
Hmm.
power
They
until you
don't.
kind of help them pull back the layers and like discover their gifts and their
Yes.
individuality. So yes, I agree with all of that. You mentioned UTA, and that's where we met.
Yep.
And I wanted to talk to you a little bit about like your campus involvement and how that may have, impacted you in your journey. So tell me a little bit about your campus involvement and activities.
You know, and I want to talk about mine too because I know there's a lot of people like me, especially at UTA, because it's such a commuter school.
Oh yeah.
And I wasn't as active as I think a lot of people were on campus. I started off joining like a lot of the main like organizations, but like NAACP, like was the BSA. There was
BSA,
like a lot
yeah.
of different, there was a lot of different organizations. But I was like, oh, if I join the main ones, I can at least start to get my feelers out for where I actually can like make a difference. But I wasn't as social in my first year. I was filling it out. Like I said, it was commuter, so you didn't necessarily have to be there. I did stay in Centennial Court, which is the student apartment, so I wasn't in the dorms. So
Yeah.
that was a different thing too. I think when you live in dorms, I think you have more likelihood to be more active because you're more social, you're in a social environment.
Yeah.
On like campus style apartments like that, I think you have to kind of pave your own way, which is fine. Because I think there's a space for that too, for the people who don't want to be so active. However, I think that I started to understand in my second year how important it was to kind of put down some roots and
Mm-hmm.
to get involved because it made or break my I guess I'll say my experience there. Because before it was like school books. Like I was doing the pre-med, so it was like that's all I knew was like I have to get A's, and I stayed grounded. I actually was working like with the YMCA, so I was just like that's what I knew. But I also knew that there was another world out there that I should be experiencing, and again, people can help you get to where you want to be. And just like I said, it helps you kind of have people there who are in the same, we're all in this together. And so
We are.
we are, but I did want to say I didn't join like a sorority. I didn't join like any kind of like specialized organization that made me feel like I was a part of a certain community. But that was an advantage too,
Mm-hmm.
because I was able to adapt to multiple different communities on campus. I was able to see different types of organizations. I was able to see the whole picture.
Yeah.
And so that was good too, because I was able, and that's the beautiful thing about UTA too, because there were so many different organizations, so many different types of people, and that's why I fell in love with it.
The
Because it was
International
like,
School of Students.
yes, like I was like, look at all these different colors, all these different shades, and I was like, and we're all just pedaling against the pavement with our little books on, just like doing this, like, and let's not forget. Well, when I came there in 2008, the size of UTA was marginal compared to like what it is today.
Oh yeah,
like
it's crazy.
I mean, it blew up, and I liked because you could see the evidence of it. You could see them transforming buildings. Like I mean, it was a good time to be a part of things that were becoming activated and changed. And so, but even though, like I said, I wasn't a part of a certain like sorority, even though I did consider, I actually like love to see that life on campus. Like I think that kind of makes it too. I had a different like sight by seeing it all.
Yeah.
And so that helped me, like I said, know kind of like, okay, where do I see myself? Some people launch into different things. Like my dad's a Kappa, and so I'm used to Greek life, but like it wasn't the life that I had, right? So, but it wasn't something that I had like I didn't have like this distrust for it or anything like that, because hazing and all that was a thing that was happening, and we had to overcome that. But like I said, I think that having a lot of different active like roles can be good as opposed to like just being a part of like a certain role. So that was kind of my perspective. I liked that I could kind of like do it all.
Look, and I agree with you wholeheartedly because I mean, although I did join a sorority, I was very active when it came to other organizations, and I used Greek life to help me get into rooms and to meet other people. Like I know that everybody who crossed over during 2008 with us, we always said that we're going to break the barriers between us and other organizations. So, class of 2008 for Greek life was about that life. You know what I'm saying? So we definitely took the time to like get to know other people and
No, you
collab
did.
with other
That's how we met.
organizations. Mm-hmm.
No, y'all were great. That's it was I commend the organizations that we had at UTA, definitely.
Yeah, some
Everybody
great
was
ones.
very open. I agree
Yep.
with that.
And we earned our degrees.
Yeah.
Look, I say that
Yeah.
every time somebody on here from UTA, I'll be like, "Yep, we earned those degrees."
No, without a doubt. This wasn't no fairy tale. No, we were in there getting the books. The library was my second home. That I probably owe them rent too.
And the
In
UC,
that first floor. Oh
mm-hmm.
yeah, for sure.
Yep.
But see, that's where I got my study. But I said, okay, so I got it. I gotta start linking up with people. I was like, we gotta start studying together. I was like,
Yes,
oh,
snacks
okay,
and all.
organic chemistry.
Snacks and
Oh,
all.
okay. I know.
True.
Exactly.
Yeah, the one thing I love about UTA is the people that we've met, and like, I wanted to ask you, like, what are your 5 non-negotiables when it comes to like the people you keep in your circle, and like, why is it so crucial to have good people around you?
You know, I learned this lesson towards the end. And
Okay.
I wish I would have had this like intel in the beginning because it just would have made me more intentional. And I used that word earlier. But my experience was kind of like, I just figured it out along the way and I kind of loved living life like that and made it more adventurous.
Yeah.
However, when it comes to like college and you don't realize the day that you walk on campus you already are like on a path that only has one exit door like and you have to figure out how you can wind your road there but like you have to figure out how you're going to get through that exit door.
Yeah.
And I didn't really realize how bad relationships made or broke like that. A lot of people that I started with freshman year, I didn't see them leave the exit door with me.
Right.
You know what I mean? But that could have made or broke whether I left the exit door too. And that doesn't mean that college is the end all. Because there's people who did not go to college who make way more than I do, and maybe you know what I mean. So
and
that's
not
not what I'm saying.
And
but I'm saying that exactly. Like
sheesh.
this is a work of art what I do for a living. But my point is that I did have to go through a lot of relationships to understand how important it is to find your tribe or your circle. It's funny because when I had friendships that were like from all over the place, I had different like even like nationalities and stuff like that. I was like, I love differences. I love to like meet people who were not like me. Because it helped elevate me in a lot of ways because I actually saw the life that I was living from a different perspective. But in my close relationships, I didn't always do that. And so I had to go through a lot of lessons of like learning, okay, this is like the right group for me, or this is the right type of friend for me because they're actually trying to get up out of here. They're actually trying to already do internships. They're trying to, you know what I mean? And it took me a long time to get to that level. But so my non-negotiables, number one is to be driven. I think that and especially I'm thinking in the college realm too, but to be driven in life too, because I don't ever want to feel like I am stable enough to where I don't have any more goals. Does that make sense?
Oh,
and so
perfect sense.
Stagnancy, but I don't even want to use that because when we're older, we think stability is the goal, but it's a part of it. But I always want to continue elevating. Excellence. The next excellence is the goal. But the other one I would think is loyalty, of course. I think that that's just one that you just have to have in any relationship. A non-negotiable too would be trust. In college we make a lot of mistakes too, but in life that doesn't go away. We act like it stops in college.
No.
We trust people and we entrust ourselves to people, but I had to realize too that like trusting someone also means that I've given trust to myself first, but I trust them enough to know that we're going places together. Like you may be going this way, I'm going this way, but we're still trying to go places. But I trust myself. To me, I trust my truth with you. I trust myself with you, and that's hard to find.
Yeah,
it really is. And so and I would just say goal oriented. This is almost like a romantic relationship, but it's not. Like this is literally friendships too. Like
look, no, but I always say this. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I just want to say this real quick. I feel like friendships and relationships are almost equal because the amount of intimacy is just different. It's just not physical intimacy. But your friends know everything.
Yes.
Everything. And in some cases, they know more than your spouse, which is the problem. But, I think that people, when you break up in friendships, it's just as, hurtful as it is a loving
Yes.
relationship. So yeah,
Hmm.
but
And
go
I mean, well, because what I was gonna say too, and I should have said this first too, but I have to have like someone who's a believer,
yeah,
because the way that we like move through life are so different if you don't have that kind of like foundation.
yeah,
And I should have started with it, but it's okay to end with it, because above all, like, you
yeah,
have to be a believer. And I didn't always choose friends like that.
yeah,
Because I'm so open hearted, and not that I still don't have friends who don't, but I'm talking about your tribe, because it can move you another way. Like, I may not have trusted my success and with God. I could have trusted it into my own hands and what I was gonna do, and then I have to go. You know what I mean? It's a total different path. Like, if you don't really have that tribe that's close to you, that's
hmm,
aligned with you like that, you go right off the deep end with them too.
yeah,
And not, and not that, I'm not judging. I'm just saying that, but for me personally, it made or broke like how I moved forward.
yeah,
I think I lost a lot of friendships that weren't aligned in that way. Whether it was just for that season or not, that doesn't mean that they were true believers or not, but just that they were in sync, with that. I think, and maybe it could have been me. We don't know, but you got to be in sync with the like belief of God and that He is in control. And so
yeah.
I think that that's a big component.
Like when you have him at the forefront, those characteristics that you just listed are kind of like a given, because
Yep.
you're gonna have a moral compass that's gonna be like,
Hmm.
I might not go that way. I shouldn't do this. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? So you're gonna at least consult God before you
Right.
make moves, which is necessary. Like, period.
Actually,
I need you to
no,
be in
like,
tune with him.
yeah.
That's a non-negotiable.
And it didn't, and I used to rely on my relationship from my childhood and, growing up in the church and stuff like that.
Hmm.
And you think that's strong enough.
Yeah.
You think that that's your backbone. Like, because I didn't really always go to church like that in college.
Hmm.
Like, I did the organizations and I did some Bible studies and stuff like that, but I wasn't like an average churchgoer like I grew up at.
A lot of
Like
people did that.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I didn't know. I didn't know until, like I said, towards the end, I'm like, wait a minute. Like, things are off kilter because I'm off kilter. Like, I forgot. I've forgotten.
Hmm.
like what got me here. Like, this didn't come off of my good study habits. This
Exactly.
came off of alignment. Like, I was actually placed here. Like, and I,
Yeah.
I forgot. And
Remember?
so towards the end,
No, go ahead.
and I was like, towards the end is whenever it came full circle. And I'm like, okay. God was like, you want to keep going forward? Then you got
Reel
to
it
put me
in.
back in front. Yeah. Yeah. It was like that.
Yeah,
Straight up like that.
I think it's interesting too, because like in college, a lot of us just do things, we rebel against what we know because
Yeah.
it's like, oh, I'm free now. I can go do whatever.
Right.
Yeah, you think you're free, but you just
Right.
tying yourself to so many soul ties. It's ridiculous. But
Okay. Oh,
uh,
man.
we ain't gonna get started on soul ties. But
Okay.
we need to have a show about that.
We do.
For real.
We
But
do.
honestly, I think a lot of people do that, and then it's amazing how God just reels you right back in because you
Hmm.
hear Him, and it's like stuff is
Right.
happening, and you're like, I know where I can go. I know where my refuge is, and you always end up right back in
Yep.
His arms. So it's just good to have people around you who have that same mentality and that will help you when you're struggling because being a believer is not easy all the time. There's things that happen, life
Okay.
happens, and doubt happens too. So you need a tribe that's gonna like cheer you on and hold you accountable when you act a fool.
Correct. Correct. That accountability is big too. I
Yeah,
used to hate it. I used to think that I had it all together. Like, no, I still toy with that. Like, I have
yeah,
to like go to God about it because I
yeah,
do not like accountability from others. Rather, I'll get it from God, but I don't like to get it from others. Like, I like to be the one who has it together. And like, no, no,
yeah,
they're placed there for that too. Keep you
yep.
back down to earth and knowing who you really are.
He uses people
And
for sure.
mhm,
Yeah.
yeah.
He definitely does use people. So, I see you talked about how relationships impact goals. And so, is there anybody in your life that really like helps you when it comes to deciding to go to college? Is that something you just always knew you were going to do, or was it somebody who was in your life that helped you decide that?
You know, I didn't really know the importance of a mother in this way until like I mean, and I know everybody acts like mom is like number one, but mom really becomes number one whenever you're trying to figure out life. Like,
Yeah.
and I don't mean like, I'm talking about like, where do I go? Where do I fall? Like, where do I stand? And like, and that life stuff, like that, those calls that you can only make to at 2 in the morning to those people. Mom is on that list, but topped it. But in
Hmm.
school, like growing up, like in high school and stuff like that, I always had that as a priority to go to college. So that was kind of like something that was just embedded, but it was
Okay.
embedded because of how I was brought up. Excellence was wrapped into going to college for me because I guess that was just where I prevailed.
Yeah.
And so I had to do it. But she was probably the voice in my ear. Honestly, the voice in my ear that helped launch me do that. I mean, people aren't usually making it through college not just because like they're not studying. Like that belief in self is key. Like to be able to get up and push
Yep.
yourself and that people they don't talk about it enough. Like you need a support system. Like and
Yeah.
people who make it without one, I mean, hats off to them. I didn't have a big one like some like I just had like, oh, I called this person, oh, I called this way. My mom was that person for me to kind of like help me like shake it off. And it's not like those loving calls. It's those reality check calls.
Yeah.
You know, like you're slacking or you're not, you know, they're telling you about who you really are so you can become who you're trying to be or
Yeah.
who you're supposed to be. I always say it's who you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
And so like, you know what I mean? And so but she was my person. She was my person. I had a couple good friends too that I could have those reality check calls with.
Yeah.
Because I didn't need I mean you need encouragement, but in the world today it's so, you know, it's not the same world. You know, you need someone that can help you actualize where you are in this world, where you are professionally or academically, so that you can make the right moves to put you in the right position. I
Yeah.
talk a lot about position so that you can do what you want to do.
Yeah.
But I needed that push. I needed a lot of that reality check from her. I did. I'll give it to my mom on that for sure. Because
Yeah.
I didn't realize a lot of people in my family, you know, they operate outside of that. You know, I've had 5 family members that don't have parents. You know, and so I had to realize how great I did have it to have someone to support me in that way in real life ways. You know, that's
Yeah.
friends can give it to you too, and that's why I said I did have some really good friends in my life too. But those calls that I needed to like pick myself up and actually keep pushing, that came from Momsy.
Yeah.
Sure
Thanks,
did.
Mom. Appreciate you,
Mhm.
Mom. For
For
real though.
real.
Mamas be the real
Mhm.
real MVP.
Yeah. The OG.
Seriously. I know your one of your quotes is never would have made it without God. You know,
Never.
the good old song, you know, Marvin Sapp. Um
Yep.
tell me what that means to you and like why is that
Um.
something that we say?
Well, and I say that too because, like I said, in college, I didn't really have God as my forefront. Like that wasn't in my sights. You know, some
Hmm.
college students they really are rooted in that. They go to church, they do the organizations, but they really are. I drifted. You know, like
They
in
live
college,
it.
they live that,
Yeah.
and it was at my core. You know, but I didn't really realize. Like, I think sometimes God has to let you fall so that you can realize that I am the reason why you are back up
It's
again.
true.
And I talked about how I didn't like know whether I wanted to do med school and I was kind of conflicted with teaching, but that period was especially hard. No, trying to transition between the path that I was working towards and the path that my heart was aligned with, that transition was really difficult. I
Yeah.
was lost. Period. I mean, I
Hmm.
was lost. And so like, but that lost time can carry over for a lifetime unless you really like get it together. And so what I'm like, so I would have not until I got back in touch back in sync with like God, like I would have not pushed forward. I would have not like gotten my vision corrected and like knowing, okay, this is where I'm supposed to be. And there's nothing better than knowing that this is where you're supposed to be.
Oh yeah.
Not where I want to be, but not I mean not just where I want to be, but just when you know that this is where you're supposed to be. That kind of peace like can like push you to levels like that you didn't even know you could get to.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, more
that's what
strength
I
than ever.
mean. Yeah, for sure.
Yes. That's real because, you know, a lot of people think that networking and trying to be in certain rooms with certain people is the way that you get to your
Mhm.
purpose, and that's not it. Our purpose only
Nope.
comes from God. So it's always important to stay linked to the source. So that
Okay.
makes complete sense. And you drifted like many of us have. I did that. A
Mhm.
lot of people did that. But the one thing is, you said at your core, you knew what was up. The very
Yep.
essence of you was God. So he always will call you right on back and gather you like a
Okay,
ponytail, get you together.
man. Back. Okay, I was like, I remember now. I remember now. Okay, 'cause he'll
Do
let you not forget.
For real though. But
Man,
I wanted to ask you, do you believe that your purpose is a journey or a destination?
I think it's a journey. I think that because like I said earlier too, I know I'm supposed to be here and teaching. Like
Mm-hmm.
you can't tell me otherwise. There's been too many, and I don't believe in coincidences. So there's
Yeah.
been too many alignments that has let me be here. However, even though this is fulfilling, I don't think that this is the end all, right? And I don't mean that I have to stop this. I just mean that I know that this is a part of my journey. I also feel like journey and destiny are intertwined.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like, but our destiny also isn't resolute. I don't feel like it's just one different. I don't think it's like one ultimate destination. I don't. I feel like along our journey, we reach different levels of our destiny. I
Yep.
do feel like that.
There's levels to this
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, there is.
For real. So tell me, if someone needed advice when it came to preparing to go to school or going to a job versus like, if they had to make
hmm
that decision, what would be your advice when it comes to like changing their mind or sticking with their first mind?
I think that based off of my experience and based off of the way the world has changed, that you must keep an open mind. Who I am today, I wouldn't have had the same conversation back during college. Like I wouldn't have said, okay, it's okay to change to a teacher. Like I
Yeah.
would have been like, no, this is what I went to, this is what I studied for. Like I had a firm grip on it. However, I wouldn't have maybe been so, I guess, at peace as I am now if I would have stuck to that.
Yeah,
I also don't feel like college is the only way to be successful. We see
exactly.
it a lot of times. I know we know about that, but we also don't know a lot of people who are. So we need to talk about that too. A lot of people who just have a job who never went to school. It took a lot. It took a lot of I was gonna say a lot more, but sometimes it's not. It's just a different path. And so you
Yeah.
have to believe in yourself to be able to do it. So I guess what I'm saying is in the beginning, like whenever you're starting out, I think you should be open to many avenues in this journey. I do think that I was afraid to leave mine because it meant I had to trust in who I was.
Yeah.
It meant that I couldn't trust in what I had done so far or my grades. It meant I had to trust in who I was. Like,
Yeah.
and that was a scary thing to now leap from one end and say, hey, I'm all in. That part is key, I think, to saying, okay, if you aren't going to go to college, then here's me trying this and seeing what I can do here. But
Yeah.
I do think it's worth all of it. I think it's worth all of it to be able to say, I don't have to do college. Like I don't.
Yeah.
I think it's like it's brave. I know that now you see a lot of things, especially with social in the wake of social media. You see so many people making it that didn't have to go to college. So I
Yeah.
don't think it's as scary as it was like maybe when I went because this was like when social media was new and all we knew is people that went to school and made it.
Yeah.
But now I feel like shoot, you can create a new way. I'm all about creation. Like you can
Yeah.
create a new normal. Nothing. So I think that establishing that in your heart, knowing that you can do whatever you can do without having to trust in the system. However, I did always say this too. Even though you have a plan, I still really rely on a backup plan too. Like I may use my major in college to finance my minor or my passion.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I still know how to operate in the system too.
Yeah.
You can still do it this way, but be creative about how you use what you have.
Yeah.
So that's still being resourceful.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think both ways, but I do think openness is key too now. I
Yeah.
think
And
so.
and the key is to define it for yourself because like you just
Mhm.
said, everybody's life is different. Like we're all completely different. And you know what you need to be happy and you know what you need to move forward. And if you haven't gotten a vision yet, you need to be talking to God and asking him to give you a vivid picture of what he wants for your
Absolutely.
life. So, but I wanted to ask you, how do you define success and happiness?
Um, happiness, I think, like we say, happiness is fleeting,
Mhm.
but joy,
Mhm.
joy, I feel like is the stronger term.
Yeah.
Because joy is eternal, right?
Yeah.
And so, but I think joy is that place that you come to inside of you that you call home. I call it the soul,
Yeah.
but but that's home to me. And so, whenever I'm at peace here, that's eternal joy
Mhm.
because I'm resting here. But success, I think, um, is based off of your personal perspective. And I also think it has levels too.
Yeah.
Like, I, in a lot of ways feel that I have become successful in life. But in
Yeah.
a lot of ways, I feel like I still have work to do. I'm unsuccessful in some areas. I'll go ahead and say that. I was trying not to use that word, but I'm unsuccessful in a lot of areas because I haven't attained those goals.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So success will probably be never ending for me.
Yeah.
Like success is almost it's a verb. Like for me, I'm moving. Success is something that I'm constantly doing, trying to be successful. So again, it's almost like that destiny or destination comment we said. It's never ending for me. Like if I reach one level of success, I'm gonna try to get to the next. Not
Yeah.
that this level isn't enough, because it is enough for me. Because I'm thankful that I even got to this point in my eyes that this is a successful point. Some people might look at this and not think of this as success. You know what I mean? Especially if we're looking at tax brackets, But
Yeah.
but I see this as, the ultimate. If I left this earth today, I would still feel like I did something. That is successful. However, I still know that there's several modes of success I'm trying to get to. Like, and so that I haven't reached yet. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I think it's never ending.
Prophet Drake said, I haven't reached the pinnacles.
Having piece of pen because I plan to reach. Yeah,
Yes,
you gotta honor if you want.
for
Yeah, I
real.
know,
Like that's that when he said that line, I was like, man, like that's
man.
real because I always look at success like this, to be honest. If I get the vision and I start
Hmm.
and I actually complete, like just being in the motion of doing the goal is
Yeah,
success for me. So
I agree
like
with that.
I don't care about what people think afterwards when it's done. Me completing that, the mission is complete. So
I hear
I'm gonna
you.
release it and let the world do whatever it's gonna do with it. But I did my part. So
Exactly.
did my
And
part.
I found unhappiness in between, and I've had to check myself on that because I think a lot of us that like if you haven't done it yet, then you shouldn't be happy yet. Like
Yeah.
you have, a lot of in the in between part
Yeah.
is difficult. So I like your definition because attaining that success is success. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like that, and there is joy in that.
Lots of
And I
joy.
haven't often found that, and but now I'm tapping in
Yeah.
because it's like it can't be just this finite thing,
Mhm.
because we're never, even as humans, like humanity is never okay with just like one level. That's why we've evolved. Like, and you can take that from the Bible, or you can take that in Scientology, or wherever you want to do it. We have favored evolution, so
Yeah.
that means that we like success was never finite. Like
Yeah.
it was always moving. So no, I agree. But the in between, I think you're right. I think it's the attaining of success just as much. So yeah, I
Yeah.
like that
Celebrate those
definition.
small wins. Celebrate those
Mm-hmm.
small wins and that's just it's just a process. So
Yeah.
well, I have one more question for you.
Okay.
If you knew then what you know now, would you change anything?
Ooh. Um. No.
No.
No. Even at 30, because like I'm 30 now, and that to me puts a different perspective on a young person. Like,
Welcome.
and I got 30 happened to me 4 days after the shutdown, so I don't know
Wow.
what that's supposed to mean. But no, 30 is whenever I think we ultimately get our reality check. And so I did have to, like in 2020, reflect on the things that I decided upon in my 20s
Mhm.
and how I move forward in my 30s and if I'm okay with those things. But I do agree with like things like happening for a reason.
Yeah.
And so if I knew now, and if I what I know now, if I could have applied it to then, I probably would have liked to. But I think I only learned what I know now because of the decisions that I made. So
Yep.
I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
I'm okay with it. Yeah.
That's the hardest part for some people, like forgiving themselves for whatever happened
Hmm.
before and releasing it. But honestly, if you hold on to all of that stuff, you will never evolve. You're just gonna keep
Never.
living in 1982.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm glad that you
It's
have that
hard though.
perspective. It
I
is
know you're
hard.
right.
It is
It
hard.
is. But
Yep.
it's the key. I think you're right. Because even when we think about what do we say, generational curses and stuff like that, how do you think that started?
Yeah.
Like where do it was here.
Yep.
Like we were doing that to ourselves too, but also like we pass it on, but it's also it's not necessarily that they didn't want for themselves or didn't, they it's just that evolution is hard to forgive.
Mhm.
Sometimes I remember I asked myself one day, I was like, I wonder if it's harder to forgive or to be forgiven. Like, I always toy with that, but also forgiveness of self, I think is a life skill that
Yeah.
I think we rarely master because it has to keep happening. It's
Yeah.
perpetual.
Because you're
Like you
gonna
have
mess
to
up.
continue. Yep. I think Denzel talks a lot about that, like
Yeah.
about having to move on from like that. Like he talks and he hones in on that, as attributing to his success now,
Yeah.
releasing that. And so it's hard, but I think if that's what we put our minds to, and sometimes giving things a name,
Yeah.
like we're talking about right now, like generational curses or whatever it is, like giving it a name, calling it out, and not being afraid to do that, so that we can move on and be at the
Yeah.
center of ourselves.
We
So
have
yeah,
to.
I agree with that.
We have to because our people, we have so much to be angry about. But it's
We
like
do.
at the end of the day, it's like your ancestors fought for you to be here. You know what
Hmm.
I'm saying? Our ancestors they were innovators in a time when they were super,
Man.
super oppressed. So
Hmm.
you have to kind of find the slithers of hope and light in those moments and utilize that as your power to continue to like catapult things and push things forward because if we don't look towards the future, we're gonna be stuck.
No,
So
absolutely, especially in a time like this.
yeah,
So like
yeah,
we definitely have to rely on all that we can. We better really get in touch because,
yeah,
and I'm
lock
talking to
in,
myself.
lock
I'm
in.
talking to myself, but yeah, no, absolutely, I agree with you 100% on that for
Yeah.
sure.
Well, I appreciate you coming on. You did amazing, and I'm sure that
Thank
people are gonna like
you.
really learn a lot from everything you just shared with us. So I'm
Thank
very
you.
grateful for your time, and I know you're busy. So I just like yes, had to get you on here though.
All right, I appreciate that. No, and I like I said, I believe in all the things that you're doing, and I keep a watch out to see what you're doing next. So thank you for letting me be a part of your evolution too.
No problem at all.
Yeah.